we all want to give back to the society. That is one intention, common intention we all have. And with that same intention, we have come up with this series of workshops called Srijan. And as today's topic is creative leadership with Dr. Rajiv Chandegra, I would like to tell you a bit about Srijan word, which is a Hindi word, and actually it literally means a meaningful creation. So it is an initiative to provide a creative ecosystem for emerging leaders and ideas, and we want to help all these people nurturing their creative leadership skills. Uh, we want to facilitate making of humane and innovative thought leaders in this region. uh, we felt the need for that, and these thought leaders should be the ones who can look at non-conventional way and provide innovative solutions to the problems. uh, our idea of today's workshop is to bridge the gap between learner and subject experts. So, all the attendees can have the right mentorship. Uh, your interest can be anything. It can be literature, activism, or politics. But to create your, niche in that field, we think, you need the right mentoring. So this is just a, platform where we try to bridge that gap. And as we have Dr. Rajiv Chandegra today with us, would like to, I'm sure everyone has already read his introduction, but would like to reiterate again. Rajiv is a practicing general practitioner in North London. After graduating from University of Birmingham in 2010, he co-founded an internship program called Roots and has spent time working on rural health issues in India. He carries interests in creativity, leadership, and systems thinking. Currently, he coordinates an initiative called Tatwa, which is an institute for creative leadership. His authorship program, Tatwa Press, is creating many thought leaders. So, Dr. Chandegra, I welcome you along with my team members, Sahil, Vaibhav, Shubham, and my co-host Manuji to today's webinar. Uh, Welcome to all the participants as well. And with this, I think over to you, Dr. Rajiv and Manuji.
Yeah, I would just extend the welcome, a very hearty welcome, and I'm very grateful that Dr. Rajiv, you took out time to do this with us. And I, of course, am a part of that Tattva authorship cohort, you may say, and I am being really benefited. तो मुझे ऐसा लगा कि ये जो मुझे बहुत अच्छी चीज लग रही है, we should share it amongst as many as we can. So, Dr. Rajiv, over to you now. The floor is yours.
Namaste. Very, very honored to be here on this platform. I've known Manu for perhaps a little over a year, and the work that the Voice of Dogras is doing is phenomenal. Bringing together a community is no easy task. And the work that I'm seeing that you are all participating in is truly, truly phenomenal. I think we will get straight into it, but I just want to say one thing, which is my native state in India is Gujarat, but I've actually been to Jammu more times than I've been to Gujarat. And especially in the period of 2009 to 2012, I was in Jammu almost every year and really had a terrific experience meeting people, plenty of people, organizations, etc. And really, really, it feels like 10 years later, I'm sort of a flashback memory. So really, like it personally, that means a lot to me as well. What we're going to cover today, and I hope I know it may be slightly difficult to understand my accent, and I'm going to be as explicit as I can. And if for whatever reason you want to stop me, absolutely, just say, look, can you clarify this point? And I'll be happy to stop. मेरी हिंदी इतनी अच्छी नहीं है, इसलिए मैं English में bolunga. So if that's okay with everybody. Today, I'm not going to tell you anything new, okay? What we're going to discuss today is something which deep down we probably all already are aware of. And actually, I want to emphasize that it's more of an interactive session where we are not passive participants watching from the stands of a cricket ground. We are the batsmen and bowlers and fielders on the pitch. And I want you to all to not see this session as spectators in the stadium, but as players in the field. And that's a big step, because playing on the field is very scary and it requires a lot of courage. It's very easy to be a spectator in the stadium. And where everybody here, I could hear from everybody's introduction, everybody here is a leader of some sort. You're leading some initiative or project or group of people. And that means that you're playing on the pitch. You're not a spectator on the stands. So I hope you've all got a piece of paper and pen. And the first activity that I want you to do is just to draw these 9 dots. Okay, just 9 dots. Now, what I want you to do is, using no more than 4 lines, without lifting the pen off the paper, I want you to cross all the 9 dots. Okay, just using 4 lines, 4 straight lines, without taking the pen off the paper. You need to cover all the 9 dots. Okay, how are we doing? Who has struggled to cover all 9 dots without lifting the pen, with only 4 lines? Who struggled? Everybody else managed to get it? Manu, let's see what you've drawn.
You said 4 lines, right?
Yeah, 4 lines, yeah.
I've done it. It looks like a, can you see it? It looks like an E.
But did you take your pen off the...
Oh yeah, I didn't even pay attention to that, Rajiv. I don't know what I did. Nah, I definitely took off my, yeah, that's how I got this.
Anybody else want to share? You've taken your pen off the page.
I was not able to cover 1, 0.
Yeah.
1 dot.
Okay, anybody else? One more person that can share? 1 dot missing, yeah, from Nidhi as well. Okay, so shall I? Oh, 3, 4, 5. That's 5. That's 5 from Arnav. That's 5 lines. Chandraji, you might need to just bring it slightly closer. Parasji, that's also 5 lines there.
Every time a single dot is missing.
Single dot, yeah.
Anyway, we try actually.
Okay. Shall I give you the answer?
Ach. They have to go.
Can you see that? 4 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's crossing all 9 dots. Can you see that? Now, it's surprising, or it may not be surprising, that when I presented you with the task, your mind will have created an imaginary boundary like a square. There is no square here, right? But your mind would have created the boundary of a square. And so your ability to carry out the task was constrained by the imaginary boundary that you placed on yourself. This task is impossible to complete unless you go beyond the boundary. Can you see that? It's impossible to complete unless you go beyond the boundary. Now, we're so used to placing constraints on ourselves, on society, on what's happening around us, and we call that perceptual stereotyping. It's almost like we already know how to do it automatically. And these boundaries are imaginary boundaries. They are learned boundaries. They don't exist in reality. But we're so used to working within a boundary that we forgot that we created the boundary all by ourselves in our minds.
Right.
And does that make sense to everybody? Can you see how, like, if you picture this as a box, as a boundary, it's an impossible task. Impossible. Whereas actually, if you go beyond the boundary, it's completely possible. So creative leadership means going beyond boundaries. Very simple. It means taking responsibility for going beyond boundaries. Nobody else can do it for you. Society won't do it for you. We ourselves have to do that overcoming process. And so today we're going to go through a series of activities, and these aren't tips, these aren't ways, techniques. We're interested in changing the context of how we see things in the world. It doesn't matter which area of business you're in, or which art form, or which subject area you want to specialize in. We want to change a fundamental way in which we see the world. So again, with your piece of paper, perhaps maybe on the other side, I want you to draw 2 circles, okay? 2 circles. Is this coming out the right way, by the way? Yeah, correct side.
Yes, it's right, yeah.
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 So one circle is called consumer, and the other circle is called creator. Okay. Now, I want you to consider the possibility, okay, just a possibility, not a statement of truth or fact, but just as a possibility, that there are only 2 ways of being in the world. The first way of being in the world is that of a consumer. This is where most of us, ordinarily, 99.999% of people, we operate within that space of being. Understand? This is the domain where the thoughts that we have are of blaming, complaining, and making excuses. How many of us blame, complain, or make excuses? How many of us have done that in the last week? probably we've done that maybe a dozen times a day, right? Constantly in this context of blaming, complaining, and making excuses. Now, consider that we ourselves all adopt this mindset, and it's actually reflected in our behaviors. Why do we stay in that situation? Why do we stay in that position? Because actually, it's very safe. We get to play it easy. We get to not be criticized. We get to have an easier life. There's a certain payoff in remaining in this space, the consumer space. Now, we have to all be very authentic here. And I'll be the first one to be authentic. Is majority of me is almost always operating in this space. Unconsciously, we're always operating this space. And whilst it's great, over time, we become powerless and unfulfilled. We've all experienced that, right? Because of some petty ego or blaming or making excuses, and I can't do this, and this is not possible, and if only this was there. And so many of our aspirations go down the drain because we continue to operate in that space. Now, there is a new way of being, and that is a new territory, uncharted territory. And we call that the context of being a creator. This is largely inaccessible without serious exertion and effort. Inaccessible. Because being a creator means taking responsibility for being a doer in the world. So whether that's your business, or your organization, or your invention, or your piece of literature or art, or your comedy, or family, or community, whoever it is, this is almost always our default. Ordinarily, it takes a lot of conscious will to transition to becoming a creator. One is at the effect of life, very victim mentality, and the other is at the source of life, author mentality. And this overcoming is all about overcoming boundaries. Make sense? Yeah? Anybody not clear? Easy. Okay. So now there's a task for you, okay? Because when we think or dream about doing something, right? Initially, there's a spark of excitement. We really want to do that. We want to publish a book, or we want to start a business, or we want to run a marathon, or we want to draw a piece of artwork. There's always that spark of excitement. But at the very same time is a force that resists us. It's always pushing us back, right? There is this force that is always trying to resist us and stopping us from moving in this direction. Now, think about some of the things in our lives that stop us from being who we want to be, a creator. Time, like I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I don't have the expertise of the people around me. The weather is not great today. All these external forces that push us back. But just consider for a moment that these are all external forces, what we call, in Tattva, what we call contrarian. A contrarian is any force that tries to resist you. The most powerful force that will try to resist you is the inner contrarian. The inner contrarian is the story that you tell yourself about yourself. And I'll share my inner contrarian with you. And maybe Manu, you can share yours as well. My inner contrarian is I'm not important. Okay? I'm not important. So what does that mean? It means that that story that is somewhere at the back of my head, at the back of my brain, deep within my subconscious, if I'm not careful, it will project itself in my behavior and in my conversations and in my actions. At some point in time, I may have had an experience where I didn't feel important. But what did I do after that? I made it into my entire life story. So everything is constrained within the boundary of I'm not important. Can you see how if I carry that inner contrarian, it will always push me back, yeah, to being this default consumer who's blaming, complaining, and making excuses. I can't do that because I'm not important. It's not for me. I'm not important. I don't deserve that. I'm not important. See how it limits me, right? It's again, it's a boundary that I've created in my own mind. So I want you guys all to spend just a few minutes thinking about what do you feel is your inner contrarian? What is that force that resists you from being a creator? And there's a bit of a hint here if you find it difficult. I'll give you 2 hints. Number 1, think about a time in your life where you experienced failure. How did you react? What did you tell yourself about yourself? So that's one way of finding your inner contrarian. The second way is sometimes your strengths can be compensations for an inner contrarian. So let's say you're a perfectionist. It means that you're probably afraid of failure. That's your inner contrarian. So just spend a few minutes thinking about what that could be. We'll set a time limit at 3 minutes. Everybody understand? Anybody not getting it? Give it another 30 seconds. I think we can start sharing. Okay. So let's just hear from a few people. What do you feel is your inner contrarian? Anybody can unmute themselves and share.
Yes, it was very, very interesting. If I may start, say something.
Sure.
Yeah, we are reading a lot about, the fact that one can be a co-creator in one's reality. There's so many shows and all over there. And they make us look at, some of our inhibitions, what it is, like you said, that may be inhibiting us. But where I think in my family, let's say, we are very fatalistic. We believe utterly in the fact that, yes, whatever has to be, has to be. And then as a trait, you become a little stoic. You learn to take whatever comes with with strength and with fortitude. You just take it. So whenever there is this new thread, especially like when you study about the free will idea in Christianity, for example, and the karmic determinism in our ideas, like the fact that, okay, if this has to happen to me, it will happen, and whatever I may do, I can only make it a little better for myself. I can take it, if I'm happy about it, I can, I can treat myself better by accepting things as they are, etc., etc. So I've always had this little doubt, which becomes my dilemma. And I'm always, like Hamlet, in that procrastination. Shall I accept it, or shall I go ahead and take what is coming to me, or even wish for that which is, perhaps beckoning? I want to take a step forward, but I don't know whether I'm being arrogant, egoistic, ambitious, or shall I just be and let things come to me as they are? So that always holds me back, I feel. I feel that I'm 56 this year, and I feel that I've still not learned to maybe, get what I can get out of life because of this dilemma.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nina ji, for sharing. We'll talk about this later on. Let's hear from other people.
I can go. I think there's Vaibhav also. So Vaibhav, if you want to say, you can say, and then I'll share.
You share afterwards.
Okay, I think my biggest inner contrarian, and it is a very strong force, I have to tell you. It stops me from doing so many things and not doing it in a timely fashion, is that I'm not good enough. So I think maybe it's a perfectionist syndrome, where I feel I need to do more before I can really create something and put it out there. So that stops me so many times, that it's just not good enough. It's not good enough. It just keeps playing in my head.
Thanks, Manu. Weber?
Yes. So my inner contrarian is like the world is, it's partial. So there is nepotism. I'm not valued. So more of, in many government departments, there are opportunities. So but before applying or before putting my papers, I just always assume that there is nepotism and the world is partial. So I even don't apply at many places, so which stops me in my,
Complaining about the world.
Actually, I have skipped my intro also. So if I am talking about my contrarian, it's like being in a position right now. I am a government servant, right? So I am having a very stable kind of a position in life, where I'm earning well, where I'm having a safety in life according to my profession. But there are things which I want to do as a creator. I like to create some art and everything. And sometimes I think of going on an online business sort of thing or not. But the things that come to my mind is like taking risk. And if I talk about the expertise, that is what actually holds me back. That if I'm going to do this thing, how I'll manage? Do I have some kind of people who can help me out, and how I'll reach out to different kind of people? And the most of the thing that I think about is what holds me back is the expertise in my case. Actually,
I have one more point to say. Actually, it's an inertia that don't let you do anything extra out of your box. You are in a very comfortable position, and you are doing whatever you want. You are just living your life. So
yeah,
it's an
actually,
inertia that holds
coming
you
out
back.
of your comfort zone is what restricts us more, actually.
Yes.
Sometimes.
That's the point.
Thanks, guys. Anyone else?
Yeah, I could go.
I would like to add. Yeah, Mani can speak first.
Yeah, go on. I'll share after you.
Okay. Thank you. If I talk about my inner contrarian, that would be, I think, how to go beyond boundaries. I personally believe that there is no boundary and one can go beyond anything. I generally don't believe in fixed rule regarding anything, be that relationship, be that how to tackle the other things around you. But in the society, there is a boundary for everything. So I'm always struggling to let people understand that yes, there is no boundary and we can achieve anything. And that helps, that creates a trouble for me also in achieving my goals. So that's my contrarian, how to help people understand that yes, there is no boundary. Rules are made by us, boundaries are created by us. So we are so entangled in that, yes, we don't allow other people to go beyond it. So that's my contrarian.
What's the story that you tell yourself about yourself, though?
I think I keep on saying that everything is achievable. I keep working hard towards my goal. It took me really time to achieve what I really want to do in life, but I never quit. So I keep doing it. Sometimes I do have a low phase when I feel कि भाई इतना ही struggle क्यों करना पड़ता है हर चीज के लिए. But then I keep working hard. Keep on going, and then there is no boundary. That's what makes me feel inspired.
Good. Okay, Money?
Yeah, I think the stories I tell myself, most of the times it's you don't have enough time, you don't have enough energy, you'll be exhausted, you don't have enough physical vitality, enough money, so there's a lot of scarcity there, I think. And a lot of times it's impulsiveness, a lot of times it's resignation, believing that this is it, and just getting there, trying to get there with all my impulse, and sometimes just the opposite of it, that this isn't it, and I resign, I cannot do it. So yeah, it feels a bit vulnerable sharing these symptoms of my inner contrarian, I think.
Thanks, Money. Thank you.
I would like to go.
Yeah.
The thing that stops me is like, I think that if I stop or if I take a break, then there are other people who are better than me, and I am back in the race. And if I'm in the front also, then still I feel that there is someone who is in front of me, and I cannot overcome him or her. And this stops me from achieving what I can, and I know that I can do it, but it stops me.
That's a good one. Yeah. Other people. Yeah. Anyone else?
I would like to add another point actually. What I ask myself when I'm like I'm going to become a creator, I ask myself a question which is like, how it is going to change my life? What is the differences it's going to make in my life? And most of the times I am not getting मतलब बोलते हैं ना 100% answer to it. Whether I am going to have any change in my life or not, if I am going to change or shift my positions. So that is what actually is the most barrier or a thing that holds me in taking a jump or in making a shift from the consumer to a creator.
Brilliant, thank you. Paras ji?
Is the fear of failure or and future insecurities. I generally tell myself, if I get failed or if I don't achieve these things, then how can I cope up with my future priorities and future things? So I just have to stop here. If I get failed, nobody will support me, and everything gets shattered. So rather of going through all these things, just be here wherever you are and play safe, play secure, and the resources you have, just be happy with that. This is the thing, the fear of failure and the future insecurities that hold me.
Yeah, thank you, Parasji. It's interesting that a lot of our inner contrarians are concealed as safety, right? Playing it safe. It's disguised as safety, security, and it's also disguised based on our definition of who we are. And it will always play onto that definition of who we are. And who we are is always past tense, right? It's never future invented tense. Does that make sense? We always define ourselves based on our past. Maybe one more, and then we can move on. Yeah.
Hi, this is Arnab. Just wanted to say what actually happens is when we start something new now, the main thing that obstructs us is, we consider we are involved with some people. We consider that if I do this work, it'll work in this way. There's lots of pros and cons. The moment we start working on the pros and cons, the positive part usually dies down, the negative part is more highlighted. कि ऐसा करेंगे तो ऐसा हो सकता है, तो ये ना करा जाए. So, the right track you miss it. That's what stops people. That's personally my call, my say.
Thank you. We had, is it Amit Singh?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
The main problem is first laziness. I am very lazy.
Universal
And
for all of us.
and main is I don't have the resources. I thought, okay, I don't have the resources. I don't have any teamwork. I believe in teamwork, but I don't have any team. Main problem is that.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you all for sharing. It's not easy to be very vulnerable in showcasing our biggest fears and anxieties in front of other people. But this exercise was perhaps less about finding the exact inner contrarian, because actually it may evolve for you as you think about it more, but more about being authentic. That yes, we do have something that is perhaps holding us back. And the more authentic and more real we can be, we have to be very real. We can't be, we can't put on a show when it comes to our own development. We have to be very, very honest and brutally real with ourselves. And this is an exercise in being real. Now, the next part of this is, well, how do you overcome this inner contrarian? How do you get over this? And it doesn't matter what it is. Guaranteed, it doesn't matter what it is. There are probably 3 ways of dealing with it. Okay. Number 1 is running away and pretending it doesn't exist. You know, if anybody's got into a fight in a playground at school or something, sometimes if there's some big bully, you want to run away, right? You want to run away. But what happens? The bully keeps chasing us. That's one way. The second way is to use your brute strength and say, no, I will destroy you. And really use your fists and fight head on. That's one way of doing it. The problem with that is we'll get very tired very quickly. And it's a difficult match to win when we try to face it head on to get rid of it. The third way, very simple. You've seen judo, the martial art judo. The principle behind judo is to utilize your opponent's strength against them. With your inner contrarian, don't try and wish it goes away. Don't try and push it away. Don't try and destroy it. Let it be. It's fine having that inner contrarian within us. The only thing is, don't let it define your actions. That's it. It's just a story, like many, many other stories that we have in our minds. It's just one story, and let it be. Acknowledge it. And the thing is that when the going is good, it's actually very easy to be here when things are great. When there's a crisis, this is our default. Our inner contrarian just comes in and brings us back over here. That's when we all have to be mindful of transcending that boundary. That's creative leadership. So a big part of the sort of, regardless of which art form or area that you want to work in, is always being self-aware, and being authentic. So being aware that we all possess in some way a limiting belief, a contrarian, a boundary that we set upon ourselves, which is just a story in our minds that we can transcend through effort is a possibility to invent a new future which otherwise would not exist for ourselves. Okay. We're going to move on now. Manoji, how much time do we have?
Oh, we have time, Rajiv.
We have time, yeah?
Yeah.
So I'll probably just, what I'll do is, because I'm keen that everybody leaves here with some sort of action going forward. But before that part, I want to just introduce something that we've sort of, and I think there's a couple of students of journalism and media here who are probably familiar with this as well. But it's because Tattva is sort of in the space of literature and publishing. One of the things that we talk about.
Rajiv, can I ask you a question? It's related to what you just said, so that before you go on to the next thing, you said that let it be and let it not define your actions. So let your, whatever that inner contrarian is, let it be there. Can you give an example so that, if supposing this is my inner contrarian, how do I let it be and, I don't allow it to define my action? If you could give an example before you start.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example of myself, actually. A few years ago, I kind of felt like my inner contrarian was, this is not perfect. This is not perfect. So anything that I do, it's not perfect. If I'm at work, it's not perfect. If I'm being creative, it's not perfect. It's just not perfect. And so what I did practically was I spoke to one of my cousins, who Manu also knows, Raghav, and I said, look, this is my limiting belief. And so anything that I would then do, so any project or anything, and he is on the team, if he senses me trying to be overly perfect, he'll say, this is your inner contrarian at play. And that would immediately give me that sense of awareness that, okay, like this is not me. This is a story in me that's playing out there. Yeah, does that make sense? But ordinarily, if you really sit down and examine your life, most of our interactions are based around this kind of inner contrarian. It's almost always even like right now I'm talking, right now I'm communicating, but my default way of communicating, most of us, is that we actually listen more towards the story in our own heads than the people here. Just be present to that right now. Are you listening to the story in your own head right now, or listening to the people here? And more often than not, it would be something in here, right? So it plays out almost all the time.
And I think Raghav could help you from what I am, sort of understanding from what you shared. Raghav, your cousin, could help you only because you were self-aware enough to tell him what your inner contrarian was. So he could then spot it for you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
This is a strength of any kind of community. This is what families are. This is. I mean, I consider this as a family here. This is why we're here. This is what families are, where we can share some of our things that are holding us back, and so that other people can empower us. Yeah.
Can I just interrupt?
Sure.
I know. I was, this community over here right now, as a family, is working out or trying to think, in a different way, in a way which helps us out of our limitations. But generally, our limiting beliefs are given to us by our families, our birth families, biological families, and our sociological families, that which are around us. And it is those beliefs which we have internalized as we are growing up, that are actually, you think that you're not important because, I don't know, I'm not a psychologist, maybe you are a second child. Are you?
Mhm. I'm not a second child now.
Okay, okay. So we have some of these things. So
Yeah.
I have my limiting beliefs. I don't know whether I should go ahead because I have some fear, because perhaps my father was too brave, he would just go anywhere. So I have this thing of holding back. I'm just saying, so many times our own experiences become our limiting beliefs. They don't allow us to go beyond that.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. I want to make a distinction here, okay? That not all this is not a value judgment, good or bad, right? This is not about good or bad. This is about what works. In some situations, having boundaries is good because it works, right? It's not that we have to abolish all sense of boundaries. In some senses, boundaries are good. In some senses, you got to transcend the boundaries. So it's not a value judgment. That's the distinction here. Yeah, rules are, of course, like, if there were no rules, then somebody could cheat in an exam and pass, right? That's not sustainable. So of course, boundaries, rules exist, but we've got to be mindful that they are constructs. And as soon as something stops working, and again, let's take responsibility just for us. Default is obviously to talk about this is the way society is and X, Y, Z, but just take us as an example. If things aren't working for us, then we have to be that change. So one of the second thing I wanted to, and I'll briefly put it out here, and I can share it, perhaps over email or something via Manu later, is something called an ideas canvas. Okay, an ideas canvas. So ordinarily we look at stories as describing the world, as descriptive. Words are descriptive. But that's, again, a limiting way of seeing ideas. A more empowering way of seeing ideas is that stories or words create the world. They literally create our reality. So an ideas canvas is essentially anything, any idea that you have. If you want to make it into a really powerful, meaningful idea, is to make sure you're taking into account the three layers of an idea: the meta, the macro, and the micro. Broadly speaking, and I'll use an example. The meta is the purpose of your idea. It's the context. It's the thing that you're contributing towards. It's, you could say, the dharma of your idea. And it appeals to the spirit of who you are. It's the why. It's the thing that is greater than your idea. Then you have the macro. The macro appeals to the mind. This is the research element. This is the rational element. This is the logical element. This is where you're talking about hard facts, topics, subjects. And the third is the micro story, or the micro. And this appeals to the heart. Humans connect with humans. They don't connect with ideas. abstract ideas, they connect with humans. So you must be able to humanize your idea so that the receiver can develop some sort of emotional rapport. And I'll give you the example. Have you guys read, it's one of my favorite books, a very short book called Animal Farm by George Orwell. Come across it? Anybody? George Orwell is a very famous British author, and he wrote a book called Animal Farm, okay? And it's a story about animals on a farm. They're talking animals, and they are, anyway, there's a plot line to it. Now, look, there are so many Bharatiya stories that are based on this model, right? Like, I think all of us can name so many, but I'll take this as an example. Now, the micro story is just about animals on a farm. The topics that are being relayed in that small story are all about Soviet Russia. They're about Stalinism. They're about communism. The author has taken time to research all these macro areas. And even though it's not explicit, my reading of this book is that the meta purpose, the purpose beyond the book, the dharma of the book, is to communicate that the dangers of a totalitarian regime, basically. So can you see how it's such a compelling idea, because George Orwell has taken on all three layers of an idea, of the ideas canvas: the spirit, the mind, and the heart. And so sometimes when whatever it is, if you're an organizational leader, if you want to try and get an idea across to your team, appeal at all three layers. If you're an author, try and appeal at all three areas. Yeah. So that's just kind of an aside, and I'll share some more resources that you guys can use if you have an idea to work with. But I think what I want to sort of leave with, and maybe we can maybe a few minutes for some Q&A afterwards, is hopefully you still got some space on that sheet of paper of yours, and I just want you to split it up into 4 quadrants. Okay, these 4 quadrants represent the next 4 weeks, and I want you to just take 2 minutes to write down very simple terms. In each quadrant, I will create something. Is it an article? Is it an art piece? Is it some change you want to see in your local community? Is it a conversation? Do you want to create a conversation with somebody in your family? Just spend a couple of minutes thinking about that. It doesn't matter how big or small it is. It's whatever you feel you want to create right now for yourself. Okay, so if I know some of you may not have finished, but let's just go back to what we said right at the start, which was playing on the field as opposed to being a spectator in the stadium. So who wants to really play on the field and just share the 4 things that they want to create over the next 4 weeks? Somebody who wants to be a bit courageous and wants to share it and commit to it.
The ball rolling just like that. Because I have a lot of assignments to do. I mean,
Okay.
I know that over these 4 weeks, I have to create some study material, and I have to edit 1 book for myself. And most importantly for me, I want to create a happy and healthy, place for me while doing it. So I'm just to set the ball rolling. And that's what I'm thinking of doing in the next 4 weeks by the end of June. Thank you.
Thank you. Brilliant. Let's have one more person just sharing what they want to do in the next 4 weeks. Yep. Money Mahesh.
Yes, I could go ahead. So I will create a poster and landing page for a workshop I've been planning to offer online for a while now. Another thing I'll create is a new pot in my garden. I want to plant something new. The third thing I'll create is my investment portfolio. I've never done it. I'm scared of it. I've been thinking of it. And the fourth thing I'll create is an authentic conversation with my family on a topic that's been on hold for some time. Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Wonderful. Okay, brilliant. Well,
Yeah.
look, this.
Shall I?
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Go for it.
Yes, I'll be writing chapter for my thesis as I have been instructed by my guide to do it. And then I'll be working on more on my conscious breathing, which I practice to keep myself more calm and confident. Because I personally believe that this is the only way to let you go beyond all that you were talking about, awareness. Yes, we have awareness about what is troubling us, but then what we lack is the practicality. We know that this is a story created by us and this is troubling us. This is not the truth. But then how to go beyond it? Some people can easily go beyond it, but some people really find it difficult to go beyond it. So yes, that's what I practice, to keep myself little at difference from the story being created in the mind. But yes, then I get lost again and again, and I have to practice it more and more to be on the right platform. And another thing is to help people understand this and do this conscious breathing, which I say people around me, to help them understand it and gain benefit from it. Because what I see, people are struggling more from the mental issues than the health issues, other health issues. If you have things going on in the mind, that will ultimately affect the health. So yes, people and my family around, whom I am seeing struggling, I'll help them to overcome it. That's what I have in mind.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Rajiv, I would like to share too, because I would then be committing to these 4 things that I am, because I'm saying it openly, publicly, so I have to stay committed. So I've written for myself, I will create, the first is, I'll finish the edits of the manuscript that is sitting with me for quite some time now. The second thing is I will create positivity. I think I want to send out positive messages, because I use social media platforms to talk to a lot of people. I want to do that especially for the coming weeks. Then I've written that I will create more spaces where we can have conversations about my region, which is Jammu. So I've started using Clubhouse recently, and we've been holding discussions. I want to create more such spaces. Even this workshop, for example, has been a good way to connect with such brilliant people. And finally, I will create better health for myself, because I've been avoiding that. I really need to start exercising, going for walks, eating better, etc. So these are the 4 things that I have written, and I'm putting it out there so that I have some pressure on me to follow what I have just shared here.
Thank you, Manu. Thank you. I think one of the things that it can be very overwhelming to commit to a lot of these things, which means that we've got to be able to practice saying the word no in our lives. Often we always say yes to everything, and it's impossible. We've got to practice saying no to the things that we want to say yes to. Does that make sense? Yeah. We have to practice saying no to things that we want to say yes to. And that will allow us to prioritize what's important for us. So thank you once again. It's been lovely meeting all of you. I've got everybody's names down, and I hope we can stay in touch. Look, this is all a learning journey for all of us, right? Like it's an absolute learning, and we all have to keep that sort of beginner's mindset. Be curious, be curious. Use boundaries. I wouldn't say abolish boundaries. Use the boundaries as you see necessary in a given situation. And absolutely, like Nidhi has just said, make it a practice. Don't rely on your motivation or mood, right? Don't rely on your motivation or mood. To bring it back to, I suppose, you know, maybe the meta purpose of this initiative is to do something positive in the world. And this distinction between consumer and creator is not an invention that we've come up with at all. In fact, in the Gita, Krishna talks about exactly the same phenomenon, but he labels it as Bhogi and Yogi, right? Somebody who is a Bhogi is consuming and consuming and consuming. And until the point where of no return, we have to transcend to becoming yogis, or in our case, creative yogis, who are able to, you know, in the Gita, it says, samatvam yoga uchyate. Yoga is equanimity. It's being balanced. It's understanding that there is so much turmoil and crisis out there, but that is not going to define me. Instead, I can transcend that and still be a positive force for good in society. And because that is the thing that is lacking in our world today. Our world is full of bhogis, blaming, complaining, making excuses, and it starts with us as individuals. So the practice of going there is actually inherent in our blood as Indians. Actually, we are, it's part of who we are. So really embrace that. Dhanyavad. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rajiv. I would, before I give my vote of thanks on behalf of the Voice of Dogras team, if anybody has any questions or anything they would want to, this is your chance. If you can, you know, if you have anything, kuch bhi aapke dimag mein hai, koi baat hai to.
I would just like to take a moment to acknowledge you, Dr. Rajiv, for so much compassion and for sharing all these powerful tools with us and the methods and techniques to use these tools. This has been a very powerful session. Thank you so much. And of course, a big thanks to the team of Voice of Dogras for facilitating this and spreading the word. Thank you. I look forward to being in touch and learning more.
For sure. Thank you.
I think the idea is, Mani, you very nicely summed up. The idea is to stay in touch also, because we would like to hear what this has, this particular workshop has led to in your personal lives. If you have planted that pot, the new plant that you were saying, please send us a picture. We would love to see anything that any of you have done after this, or even I will share mine. And I think we'll stay in touch. We have your email IDs, we have your contact details. And even if you have something to say, and if Dr. Rajiv has some resources to share, which we can, you know, you mentioned this book, Dr. Rajiv, or there's anything else which can be shared with this particular group, we would love to do that. And we would like to remain in touch, because when I was talking to Dr. Rajiv and asking him that could you please do this, because this has, you know, this sort of struck us that we should organize these things. He asked me, what is the outcome that you're looking for? That was his question. After 6 weeks, what do you expect to happen after, you know, this particular workshop? And I said that I don't know how many will be attending and sitting through the entire workshop, but we really hope, Voice of Dogras, the team really hopes that even if 2 would have created something after this workshop, we would have, you know, the purpose of holding this workshop would have been served. So that was the idea. And it was lovely having all of you. Dr. Rajiv, thank you so much. I personally am very inspired by all that you say. It has motivated me to do a lot of things, especially, you know, everybody mentioned pandemic. It's affected us, each one of us in different ways. I have been away from my family for just too long, and it pulls you down. But these sessions with you have helped me, and I hope we've managed to pass on the same spirit and that tattva to everyone here. So thank you on behalf of the team of Voice of Dogras. Thank you everyone who registered and joined us today. Please keep in touch and send us your stories of what you did. Namaste. Thank you very much.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.